Every year, Dura-Stress Incorporated ships almost 1,000 I-beams throughout the state of Florida. The video that's about to follow shows a record-setting beam for the state of Florida for a Florida I-beam measuring 184 feet in length and weighing 219,000 pounds. Here you can see the straddle cranes loading the I-beam onto the specially designed trailer to make the trip. The trip is almost 200 miles long and takes approximately 7 hours. Here is the first one leaving the plant. You can see the counterweight on the back of the truck. That is there to add traction to the tires of the truck, due to the fact that all of the weight of the I-beam is on the specially designed trailers, and the only weight on the truck is from the counterweight. Here you can see how the base of the trailer rotates while the I-beam stays straight. The back end of the trailer also is doing something very similar to the front end, keeping the wheels straight while the beam rotates, then following the beam around so that the corners are not taken too tightly. This shot really represents how wide the entire rig is coming down the road. We had the aft cars pull off both sides of the road as we went past, taking most of these small turns, occupying the entire road. The trailers are 12 feet wide normally, and if need be, the wheels will extend out to 19 feet. This shot really shows the change in elevation, where the back of the trailer is much higher. The front of the beam clears the trailer by just inches without scraping. This is the second of the major turns. However, the back of the trailer did not have to be unpinned for this and turn normally. In this image, you can see just how wide the driver has to go to make the turn, and then you can see where the back of the trailer is relative to the corner of the road. This is the third of the major turns. In this one, we did have to unpin the back of the trailer to steer it around the corner. If you see in those images, you can notice the different angles of the way the trailer is pointing compared to how the beam is pointing. In this shot, you can see how the beam is turning as it's going around the corner, but the back wheels of the trailer are staying straight within the lane. Here you can see the trailer is slightly starting to turn to follow the beam around. As it progresses in the turn, the trailer follows the beam more and more, eventually realigning with the beam. This is the trailer finishing up the turn and straightening itself out. This shot is from the back of the second beam we were shipping, showing just how much the back actually turns in comparison to the trailer. The gentleman in the blue shirt is actually steering the back trailer. He has a handheld remote control in his right hand and is steering it around, basically like a video game. A few simple buttons keeps the trailer straight, turns it, and then realigns it with the trailer. He simply walks next to the trailer, and as he makes the turn, adjusts the trailer as need be. As the caravan is coming up the hill, you can notice the 8 state troopers escorting us. It was a rolling escort, always closing down the roads in front of us and keeping traffic away from the side of the rigs. That way, the shipping department had to worry less about traffic and more about keeping the beams on the road. Coming up the hill was the slowest part of the journey. We started at the bottom of the hill doing 50 miles an hour, and by the time we reached the top, we were only doing about 35. In these shots, you can see a steel saddle that sits on top of the beams, specially designed for shipping these to increase stability. In this shot, you can see the operator unhooking the hydraulic piston, which rides as we're going down the road straight. You notice that there is a little room for movement for smaller turns as we're operating, but here is removing the pin, sliding the piston back. That way the trailer is free to rotate as he uses the remote control. By this point, we've reached dusk. The ship started at 1 in the afternoon, and it's now a beautiful Florida evening in the background, making the last turn. Here you see the trailer straightening out to reattach for more of the straight drive. This is the last bend coming into Indiantown. They did not have to unhook for this bend, but did take it extremely slow. The trucks are now on the job site, taking the steel saddle off. This is a specially designed two-part lifting harness supplied by the contractor specifically for this job. In this section, they're raising the trailer so that they can slide in the bottom half of the two-part lifting device. Here they are putting in the bottom part of the two-part lifting harness. Here they are bringing the beam onto the existing bridge. It's about 10 o'clock in the evening at this point, and they have the road completely shut down, specifically to bring the new girder up. Now they're attaching the top half of the two-part lifting device, connecting it to the bottom, as well as removing the chains holding the beam to the trailer. If you look in the background, you can notice the crane boom sitting on the ground underneath the bridge. There's one of these on either side of the girder to lift it up simultaneously to set it in place. Here they are attaching the top and bottom half of the two-part lifting device. The beam is now being picked up by the two cranes on the ground. The operators next to the trailer and the crane operators are communicating the entire time via radio to make sure that the lift is simultaneous. The cranes are now swinging the beam towards its final resting place. Now that the beam is off the trailers, the driver is going to go ahead and back up and hook up to the back part of the trailer to remove it from the bridge. This is done so that the bridge can be reopened for traffic to pass while they're setting the beam in place. Once the crane operators have the beam approximately as horizontal as they're going to go, they're going to start lowering it down into place. Once the I-beam gets into this point, the workers on the piers will start guiding it by hand, as well as still in communication with the crane operator to get it into a more specific location. At 184 feet, these beams replace 3 spans from the old bridge. Once the beams get this low, the workers on the pier and the crane operator have to guide the beam in between the 2 side plates, in which they have less than an inch to put the beam in place. Here they are picking up the back half of the trailer to stack it on the front half for the trip home. As the driver says, "Put it on autopilot, take us home for another trip tomorrow." Be on the lookout for another record-setting beam coming soon from Dura-Stress Incorporated.